So I did enjoy that. I think then the rest of the book, it's pretty much the same. Like, it's just a repeat of the professor wants to do something mad, and nephew's like, nah, geez, we can't do that. We need to go home or go back or whatever. And then professor's like, right, well, I'm away anyway. And then the nephew just follows him.
So hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Audiobook Club podcast. My name is Stephen and I'll be your host for this week, for this episode. Do you just want to go around and say hello?
Jonathan here.
Hi. I'm Michael. I just want to preemptively apologize to the listeners for my performance on today's episode because I'm severely underslept, but gonna power on.
Excuses.
I see voice cracker at the end too.
It's okay. With the power of editing, I'll make myself sound more like a man.
Michael always auto-tunes himself, you see. So it sounds perfect. No voice cracks here. Okay, so this time around we're going to be talking about The Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. Yeah, I guess crack right into it. What's the format again? Talk about...
I think you say why you picked the book first, isn't that the...
Yeah, so yeah. I think... So why did I pick the book? So I think I kind of talked in the last episode about my whole picking process and how difficult it was. So I had a few ideas on books to pick, but they were all kind of too close to things we've done recently, like thematically and what have you. So I didn't want to retread the same ground sort of thing. And I really struggled to pick something. And I can't quite remember if I'd noticed it first on Audible or if it was in our spreadsheet. But one of the books that we've been requested by someone is what I landed on. It was either I saw it in the Audible recommended thing or I saw it in our spreadsheet. I can't remember which. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds perfect. I think everybody will enjoy this book. And now that we've read it, I don't think that's going to have been the case. So excited to find out more from everybody. So very brief summary before we start talking about it. So a German professor of mineralogy discovers a coded piece of parchment that's supposedly written by this famous alchemist guy, and upon deciphering the code, it reveals instructions on how to reach the center of the earth, and him and his nephew go on the eponymous journey. And they go through all sorts of japes and stuff. So
where on earth do they journey to?
The centre.
What?
Of the earth.
Jesus. Spoilers already? I don't know we're on the spoiler part now.
Well...
do they though?
Do they actually though? Or is it
that's an actual spoiler?
Just slightly beneath the crust of the
past
earth?
The crust.
Were they going in circles the whole time? You don't know.
Journey to a tiny bit into the earth. Just doesn't have the same ring.
Nah, it doesn't. Yeah, so I don't think we need to do plot guess reveal because I think we even said last episode that there's no point because the title pretty much sums it all up. Unless did we do a plot guess? I can't remember.
We didn't because Michael summarised it with Brendan Fraser and stuff. It goes to Center of Earth, which that sums it up.
Right. That's right, yeah.
And to be fair, was I completely wrong?
There wasn't enough Brendan Fraser for my
There's zero Brendan Fraser actually.
I was very disappointed. I was expecting him to make at least one cameo.
I know, yeah. So yeah, sorry, Jason, you want to say something there?
No, I'm just saying, not enough Brendan Fraser. I feel like I guessed there was a T-Rex, and there was not a T-Rex.
I think I remember
I was upset.
you saying that, yeah.
That's in the movie, not in the book.
I think
Is there a
T-Rex would have
movie?
been welcome, though. I'll say that.
I think the movie takes a lot of liberties. I didn't watch the movie.
I meant to watch the movie.
Yeah, I forgot to watch it.
Damn. Cut that part out, Michael. Let's go watch the movie now and come back.
Yeah, let's do it.
So yeah, let's just go on the spoiler-free review. So I'll go first. I'm happy enough to go first. So I think I had high hopes for this book, and they weren't met at all. I had heard or read that it inspired a pile of authors that I like Tolkien and Arthur Conan Doyle, but I really don't know why. I thought, upon hearing that, I thought it would be amazing, right? But in reality, it was just okay. Wasn't terrible. Wasn't spectacular for me. Some portions of it I really liked, but others were just fully boring to me. Like when Axel gets lost. I was expecting it to be like a classic adventure tale with loads of suspenseful stuff and exciting moments, and it didn't deliver that for me, really. And some of the scenarios the characters find themselves in was good, but there wasn't enough excitement. I think also the narrative style was a bit weird for me. I don't mean Tim Curry, I mean the way the book is written. So it's how it's told in retrospect by one of the characters, so he's kind of speaking as if it's a past event.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of weird because he mentions at times he kind of breaks from the narrative and starts talking about the professor published this later on, and it kind of takes away from some of the plot points, like him getting lost or when they run out of water and everything, because that they must figure a way out of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it breaks the illusion of suspense.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a major thing, but it was just something I was kind of that's a bit annoying. So, some parts were still false suspense. So they run out of water at one point, and you're like, oh, but okay, so they're gonna survive, but how though? Right? But it wasn't all bad, but yeah, just okay for me. So I'll pass it over. Jason, you can go next, sure. What did you think?
Yeah, as you say, it's this big famous book that's inspired all these famous authors, and then you sort of have to remember it was written in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And people just didn't have any life experience. Things are boring back then. I mean, you write a wee story about going to the crust of the earth. Madness.
Madness. Suppose this is true.
Aye.
Absolute bananas.
I think you do have to take it in the context of things, because we're also used to different stories. Not to say that we have a wilder imagination these days, but I feel like there's just so much more readily available to people now than there was 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't want to go too deep into it. I mean, it was fine. It was a fine book. There was good parts, like the parts you sort of mentioned about the water, about Axel getting lost. But yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. Cool. Michael, do you want to give us some points?
Yeah, so I was excited when you picked this book, Stephen, because I have actually never read any Jules Verne, and I've often heard that he's the father of science fiction, and that he is inspired all these great pieces of media. So I went into this excited, and the beginning of the book definitely had me intrigued, and then there were portions of the book which were paced a bit slow, especially the parts in Iceland. And it was these big long rants about how terrible Iceland is. It was just, and I did enjoy the everything that goes on within after that. Then when they descend into the volcano, the book is written in a hard science fiction style. We've kind of talked about on the podcast before, the difference between hard and soft science fiction. Just to go over it again, it's not really how accurate the science is. It's how much the science is a fixture of the book and how much it's a focus point. And in this, geology especially and science is very much a driving force in this book, and Jules Verne goes into a lot of depth about that. And I'm not a huge fan of hard science fiction, The Martian is a modern hard science fiction book, and I kind of like the more soft science fiction, hand wave and stuff. Don't even think about it. Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars. Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of my style of science fiction, to be honest. I'm still waiting for a hard science fiction book that I really enjoy, but I kind of find them hard to follow and hard to immerse myself in sometimes. And I had that problem with this book, and I agree with what Jason said. It is very much a product of its time. It was written so long ago, and it is so influential, and we are modern audiences. We've seen Jurassic Park, you know, we've seen these prehistoric things brought to cinema. So we wouldn't have the same sense of wonder as the audiences that at the time, like having these prehistoric creatures described would be a wonderful thing if we didn't have media like that, if we hadn't grown up with that and like taken it for granted already. But I still enjoyed this book in some regard, like as an intellectual experience, to have read one of the most influential science fiction authors. Not necessarily the first science fiction author, because I know Mary Shelley published Frankenstein earlier than this, but yeah, I enjoyed parts of it. I was mostly lukewarm on it.
Yeah. So just to touch on what you said about the kind of geology stuff, I did find that quite jarring, but not because of the sort of, what did you say, like the hard fiction, right?
Hard science fiction, yeah.
Hard science
sci-fi.
fiction, yeah. Not because of that so much, but just because the references completely went over my head. Like,
yeah,
it almost felt like I had to have a working knowledge of like geology to be able to understand what he's talking about sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
It was very overwhelming.
And I was like, right. And it was almost like it was there to kind of create a sense of world building, which is really weird because it's Earth, right? But there were so many things, like I said, went over my head.
Yeah, I also didn't love the whole hard science fiction bits and like them shoving the geology down your throat. But
Like
I
rocks?
suppose at the end of the day, it's like they're minerals. There's it's the point of view of a geologist, you know. So I suppose it's sort of world building in that way. Is that it sort of does make you believe that it was written by the geologist.
That's a good point, yeah.
I think it's like it's trying to add to this earnestness, because I've read a lot of people saying, "Oh, obviously this has all been disproved by now," and I was kind of like, is that implying that at the time of this writing that it was largely based on real theories, so that this was like seen as theoretically plausible, which it shows what kind of earnestness Jules Verne was approaching this with. He was trying to like posit almost a real theory, it seems. That's what I was kind of garnering anyway from the reviews I read.
Yeah, I read something. I'm not sure if it's factual or not, but I read somewhere like at the time, obviously they didn't have the technology to like, you know, check how hot the temperature gets way down deep, right? So
yeah,
you could, you know, that was theoretical, and then they likewise couldn't, you know, they hadn't discovered like lower layers of the Earth's crust and stuff, so it was just all speculative.
Yeah.
And he kind of touches on that in the book with, like, you know, he mentions certain people have, the scientific community, there's different theories floating about, and most of them believe one thing, and there's some, like himself, that don't, sort of thing. Yeah,
it nearly reads like a non-fiction book at times.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe it is. Wouldn't that be exciting?
Maybe it is.
We journey to Iceland to find out.
Let's do it.
We need to wait till June or whatever, though. What else was I going to say? Just something you were saying about minerals, Jason. I think I'd like to see that more. It's Hank and Marie traveling to the centre of Earth. And Marie really doesn't want to be there. And
Marie just keeps
minerals.
Keeps saying, these are really cool rocks. They're minerals, Marie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to see.
I would listen to Hank Schrader describe them.
Any other thoughts, Johnny?
Can I agree with what you said? Like, the science kind of stuff of it, like, yeah, like that's like more or less exactly what Michael just said there. Like, I was thinking, I wonder when this was written, where people actually like reading this book and being like, Jesus, I must go see what the crack is here. Is this like real? Like, did they know that this was science fiction, or like, was this boy actually writing this? You know, because they actually thought this could be the case. Like, and I guess obviously they didn't know because they'd never been down that far.
Yeah.
Like, I did like whenever they were describing stuff like, you know, when they were he was traveling down, and I think the nephew's basically like, it's gonna get hotter and hotter, and we're gonna get boiled alive or whatever. And then the professor like goes through all like the people said that this would be like the theory behind this, and then he's like, but as we can see, as we're doing it right now, it's not the case and stuff. I just thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, I enjoyed it from the actual science perspective. But then, yeah, I agree with what you said, Stephen, about the, you know, is this written kind of like a journal from the nephew's perspective, and he's kind of like talking like after he's done this journey. So there's no real, you know they're going to be okay. There's no real concern and stuff. And then one other thing is that I have seen the movie. I didn't watch it recently for this, but I'd seen it a few times. Like, and I had really high hopes coming on this because of the movie. Like, I really enjoy the movie, but maybe that's just because Brendan Fraser, But like, I guess the movie again was made obviously, I think it was like 2000 and something. So they,
6 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So they, could create. They obviously knew more about it, and they could create stuff with the visual effects and things like that about what it would look like. Whereas this author is doing all this probably from having just gone in one cave or something like that. There's this is just has complete imagination at the time, which I guess you could argue, should be better in terms of coming up with that. But then again, yeah, we did say that maybe he is approaching this from a realistic perspective and trying to actually theorize this could be the case. It's hard to know. But yeah, overall, yeah, I thought the book was just okay as well.
Cool. Just one thing I want to bring up is like, as you were all talking there, I was kind of thinking like, how many people could read in the 1800s, right? And of those people, I imagine the majority of them were like learned people who might, understand it a bit better than me.
Yeah, I'd say it was definitely a upper class thing more,
Yeah.
The reading and literacy was more tied to class in those days.
So yeah, I think I really didn't consider that when I was like, doing up notes for this, but now that you've mentioned it, I think it's a really good point. It's a product of its time and everything. Alright, cool. Anything anybody else wants to talk about before we go on to the spoiler review?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, like, you both brought up the suspense thing, where we kind of they break that kind of
tension.
Yeah, I think that is a thing that we've gotten used to as modern audiences, having that tension and suspense being part of modern stories. I think if you go back to older stories, especially if you're going back as far as like ancient times, stories more are just about the adventure and the journey, and it's not really, they didn't really require the characters to be in peril to be drawn on. So it was, I think that's kind of what angle this is kind of taken from.
That is also a fair point to make, yeah. I don't really have anything to say against it. So, yeah. Alright, I'll move on, to the spoiler review. So, I kind of want to briefly talk about the characters. There's not so many of them. And I only want to briefly mention, like, a little bit about them. And we'll probably talk more as we go. So, first of all, we have Axel, who is the nephew of the professor, the sort of geologist person we keep talking about. Axel is a student of geology, and he's the sort of assistant stroke pupil to his uncle. He's this like famous mineralogist person. Then we have the professor himself, who, as I said, professor of mineralogy. He's a bit of an eccentric, and he tends to lead the group into dangerous situations because he gets so curious. So he's a bit dozy. We have Hans, who is like an Icelandic hunter who they hire to guide them around Iceland, and eventually goes with them into the centre of the earth. We have Gräuben, who's kind of there for a minute. She's the professor's goddaughter and Axel's girlfriend stroke fiance. She doesn't feature much, but she's sort of there to support Axel in two ways. First of all, she kind of basically convinces him to go, and then he has like longing to see her again. That's kind of what keeps him going. And then there's a bunch of other background characters that there's no point even mentioning. So, does anybody want to talk about the characters in any detail?
Big up Super Hands.
Super Hands, main man himself,
Aye.
MVP.
Best bit of the book.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like
heavy lifting.
Obviously, it's mostly just the professor and Axel who get the majority of the development here, and I think it's kind of like I saw a review that compared them to kind of Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and I think it's a pretty on point comparison. I think in terms of Axel's sort of the straight man he's competent, he's got his own skills and everything, and he's intelligent enough to hold his own, but he is like he's like the underling to the more eccentric, kind of relentless obsessive personality
Yeah.
and the professor. So I can see a lot of parallels to that kind of dynamic. And I did enjoy some of their exchanges, but because they're both so entrenched in their like geology and all their learnings, it wasn't too different reading the dialogue from reading the narrative. It was still very dense and very full of things that I could not, that mostly went over my head, to be honest.
Yeah. One thing that I really like about their like relationship is that Axel sort of goes on at the start as if he's going to be like the professor's going to be useless and he's going to be sick all the time and like not going to make it, and then that flips completely, and he's like the useless one. I thought that was quite fun. I don't know if it was intended to be humorous, but I found it kind of funny.
Yeah, I think it was. I think like that it definitely was an intentional thing for Axel to then be the one who found himself in peril multiple times.
He's the damsel of the piece.
Yeah. He's the one who gets lost, and he's also the one he's most concerned about the water situation.
Yeah,
they're like saving him the last drops, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what about Hans? Do you have any thoughts about Hans, other than being the best? the hero of the piece?
I think he's the Samwise Gamgee of this book.
That's good. I think that's on point.
I just like how, he just wants his wages at the end of the week, and he doesn't really care what they're doing. It's like, we'll go down deep. I'll build a boat for you. Just pay me.
Yeah. He's very low maintenance.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll jump into the sort of spoiler territory now. I've tried to break up the book into like a couple of sections, but it's when I was writing up notes for it, it's much more. There's like much more content than I remember there being. So yeah, I mean, at the start of the book, we our narrator Axel, he lives with his uncle Professor Lindenbrock in this big house in Germany. He's a student of mineralogy and assistant to his uncle. One day, Professor comes home, big excitement, and reveals that he's found this book. And in this book is written old Icelandic runes. It's never revealed how he knows that they're Icelandic runes, but that doesn't matter. Within the book, they find like this piece of parchment that the professor is convinced is like a secret, like some scientific secret that they must decipher and work out and whatever. So they spend a few days trying to decipher this parchment and are getting nowhere. And the professor starts to go a bit mad and he locks them in the house and won't let them eat until they figure it out, which was bizarre, I thought, but like entertaining at the same time. They try various methods of decoding the thing and nothing seems to work until Axel sleepily stumbles upon the answer, where it's written, if you translate the Latin and write it backwards, it makes sense. And to be honest, I'm surprised it took them that long to try backwards, but there we are. So now that they're able to translate the parchment, Axel finds out that it's instructions on how to reach the center of the earth, and he becomes super distraught because he thinks his uncle will definitely want to attempt the journey and will probably die in the attempt. So he thinks about destroying the parchment and whatever, but the professor continues. And eventually Axel tells him the solution because he thinks, first of all, he's starving, and also he thinks his uncle's going mad. So obviously the professor gets super excited and they start planning how to start the journey and everything. So that's kind of the first chunk of the book. I thought it was, the start of the book was really, it's really entertaining, and I thought it was, a good intro, and it got me hyped for the rest. But what did you guys think?
So I agree with you, Stephen. I thought this was a really entertaining, strong opening. I was on board with the characters. I liked the call to adventure being like this, trying to translate this ancient runic tablet or whatever it was. I
think
thought
it was
that was
a piece of paper.
Yeah, I thought it was a really intriguing thing. Anyway, it was a good way to kind of to get them towards this goal, and I like the dynamic between Axel and the professor. I liked the professor. I've heard once before that the most important thing to do at the beginning of a story is to give like a character who's very proactive and driven, because the audience will latch on to somebody who has a lot of drive. And I think that is why I felt on board with the professor, because even though he is so eccentric and I can't relate to him in a lot of ways, I liked how much he wanted this, and that made him compelling in its own right.
Absolutely, yeah. Cool. Jason, anything to add?
I actually found the start to be quite of a slow burn, to be honest. Didn't hook me in like I'd hoped. Again, it was a lot of just this sort of hard sci-fi and just chat that was sort of going over my head, and I was like, this is not really a good way of drawing me into the story at all. But I mean, it was still interesting. Like, it's still like, oh, we're going to Iceland. Oh, that's different. Nowhere goes to Iceland. You know, it was. I think the initial like sort of plot that was put forward to it was good, but again, the execution I just struggled to enjoy.
Yeah, you just wanted them to figure it out. Like, just figure it out. Don't care how they get there. Or is that on the money or what?
I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was like how dragged out it was, like them figuring it out. I think it was maybe more just, I don't know what, like, I don't know if we needed them to sit and solve it so like,
yeah, in depth, yeah.
Precisely, in depth, yeah. Like, I think it could have been, so you probably are on the money, but like, it could have been done quicker. The whole sort of beginning, I think, could have been done a bit quicker. I don't think we needed as much development.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're massively developed characters in the first place. You know, I don't think they're massively developed at all. I think, like, we know the crux of these characters from the start. It doesn't really change very much. I wouldn't say there's much of an arc for the characters. I think you're here for the story, and I think the story is just slow getting into it.
Yeah, like I didn't take it as a character piece at all. It really was just the journey, you know, like them the undertaking of them actually going to this place and whatever.
I enjoyed the first few chapters, like where they were kind of in the lab and stuff and trying to figure it out, and you kind of get the introduction to the relationship between the nephew and the uncle. Like, it's kind of like the nephew's the voice of reason, and the uncle's just like freaking no, let's do this. He's very curious, and he's like the bit where the nephew like tries to hide the solution from him, or like so he doesn't discover it, because I think doesn't he happen on it by chance or whatever. Yeah.
He's like falling asleep or something, and he happens to realize that if he spells the words backwards,
yeah. So, but then he tries not to tell the professor because he knows what he's like, and like he's like, oh, he'll actually want to go there and risk his life and stuff. So I did enjoy that. I think then the rest of the book, it's pretty much the same. Like, it's just a repeat of the professor wants to do something mad, and nephew's like, nah, geez, we can't do that, we need to go home or go back or whatever, and then professor's like, right, well, I'm away anyway, and then the nephew just follows him. It's just constant out there.
That's a perfect summary of the rest of the book. I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. The next bit of the book is them sort of preparing and starting to go on the journey. So they figure out, they identify the sort of author of this parchment or tablet or whatever it is to be this guy Arne Satnussemm or something. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, which will happen a few times here. But this guy's like supposedly a famous alchemist, and he claims to have made the journey to the center of the earth himself. And it says, like, you know, the entrance is in a crater of a dormant volcano called Snæfell or something. Something Icelandic, which is in Iceland. But the entrance will only reveal itself at a specific time in June, for the last few days in June. So they basically have only a little over a month to get there, or they'll have to wait to the following year. Then you kind of get a bit more of the sort of theoretical science that's in the novel, like through Axel. Because when you sort of think about a journey to the centre of the earth, one of the questions for me anyway was like, what about all the lava and the heat? You know, how are they going to sort that out?
Yeah.
And Axel sort of poses the exact same problem. But the professor, like Michael was saying, the professor sort of says, you know, there's several theories that cast doubt upon that, like the molten core of the earth, and they didn't have the technology to disprove it and all the rest of it. So The professor's solution is that they just have to go and see for themselves. Then Groyben, so the professor's goddaughter, appears on the scene, and she basically convinces Axel to go. They get all the supplies and make their way to Iceland, and there's a whole few chapters where they're just go like on the journey to start the journey, which was really jarring for me. Like I can't remember which country they go to, but they go to like a hotel room and then they see about getting a boat and all, and it just took far too long for me.
I think it's Denmark, isn't it, to go to?
Yeah, Denmark, yeah. But so anyway, they get to Iceland and they hire this hunter called Hans to guide them to the volcano. And after they get there, they climb to the summit of Snæfell and they pick the correct crater and start their descent. So that's kind of the beginning of the journey, as it were. So, like, what did you think about this part? As I said, I thought it was a bit slow compared to the first section, but keen to know what you thought. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought it was quite slow, this part as well. So it's more just following on kind of the point between the discovery and then the point between actually going into the center, like into the volcano. I mean, I guess obviously it's kind of like finding your boy Hans and things like that, and kind of trying to understand what they have to do. But yeah, I mean, other than that, nothing really much happens or nothing exciting happens. So I think it is just a kind of, I don't want to say a filler. It's a necessary part of the book. It would be a bit weird if you just skipped from the discovery right until they're in there. Like, you do need it. But I would have just liked maybe something a bit more entertaining or exciting to have happened during that like part of the story. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the problem's not so much that they travelled there. It's more that there was a lot of contextual stuff, particularly about Iceland, that didn't really seem to need to be there.
Yeah.
Like, they talk about, there's a whole bit where the professor's talking to the mayor of this town or whatever, and he's saying about how there's no library, or where am I supposed to do some reading?
I wonder,
that just felt out of place for some reason.
I wonder again, is this to do with when this was written, and then maybe not a lot of people knew about Iceland or like had been there themselves, and obviously you don't have the internet where you can look online at these things. So it was kind of like the description of Iceland. People were interested. They read about that.
Yeah, so that was like part of the adventure, is what you're kind of...
Yeah. Everybody's excited. They see about the centre of the earth, but then they're also Iceland. Oh, geez, what's Iceland like? We haven't even been to Iceland, never mind the centre of the earth. Like.
Yeah, see, I think, now that you've said it, I think that's 100%, because obviously, I don't know a lot about Iceland either, but I was more focused on the centre of the earth part of the journey rather than the whole thing, do you know?
Yeah.
I was kind of like, right, get through the Iceland, but just go up the mountain, go.
Yeah.
They're dragging their heels. But yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I find this part of the book really tedious, and it was relentless criticising and hating on Iceland. And I'm sure that Icelanders don't feel this is a very, very good reflection of their country. I don't know if it's quite as ugly as Jules Verne. He seems to have like some hang up or something about Iceland. I don't know. It seems like this was a very veiled rant about Iceland. So I don't know what happened to him that he hates Iceland so much. But I could have been doing with basically the first part of the book and then them cutting to like just about to go up towards the mountain where they meet Hans just to that part or something. I could have done without all of this stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is about Iceland. I thought it was supposed to be really beautiful, but then again, this was nearly, let me see, when was it, 1880 or something? So over 100 years ago. Like, I'm sure it's changed quite a bit, but yeah, I am curious why there was so much hate for Iceland.
I think the best way I can summarize those sort of 10 chapters or so is like a filler episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it was just it was tedious, as Michael put it. Like, this was the worst bit of the book.
Yeah.
But thankfully, like, it went downhill. Things got a bit slow and boring. It did pick up from here on out in the next sort of section we're going to chat about, But yeah, not much more to add.
Yeah.
I think it was just a very slow, boring part of the journey.
Yeah, I think we're all agreed there. Yeah. So after they started descending the crater of the volcano, and the next little bit it takes them a full day to descend down the volcanic chimney or whatever it's called. And Axel's this is where Axel starts getting afraid again, where he thinks he's going to fall to his death. And I mean, fair enough. I would be, crapping myself if I climbed down a volcano. But anyway, Hans is there, and he's kind of let in on the secret of their journey, why they're there, which they've been not telling anybody so far. And he doesn't seem really bothered about it. He's kind of like, whatever, pay me. It's all good. Eventually, the professor spots this passage, and they enter it the next day, and they start to truly descend into the center of the earth then. And then after a long while of traveling, I'm not sure how long, I sort of missed how long they were going for, but I remember at one point he mentions they reached 10,000 feet below sea level, which seems mental for them to have gone down, but yeah. And they note that the temperature is only like 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which sort of almost proves the professor's speculations are correct. Which he was previously saying that what was it he was saying now? Like the temperature would sort of level out as they got closer or got further down.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So eventually they reach this fork, and they choose a path that eventually leads to a dead end. They start running out of water, but manage to make it back to the fork. And then they spend like the next day searching for water, or else they're going to give up the expedition. At the end of the day, they don't find any water and start to fall asleep. And Axel notices that Hans has disappeared. He thinks he's abandoned them, but actually, being the hero that he is, he's gone off to search for water on his own, and he's found some. So he comes back and he leads them to this like sound of water that he's heard, and they follow along for about an hour, and eventually they hear it super loud behind this rock wall, which they then break, and the water spills out. And it's boiling water, so they have to wait a little bit till it cools. Then they refill their canteens, and they're all in high spirits again. And the stream sort of follows them along for a good bit of the journey now, and it means they have access to a supply of water at all times, and they're also have a method of like directing them where to go, because it's going downwards, like downhill. And they name the stream the Hans back after Hans, because he's a legend. So that's that. There's a bit more to this sort of section, but I thought I would stop here because the next bit for me it went on a bit long. So, So Jason, what did you think about that little bit there?
Yeah, enjoyed this bit. Again, like this is where the sort of peril starts to kick in. This is where Super Hans starts to show his true self. The first of many times that he saves their lives in this adventure. I actually quite liked the stream. I liked Hans back almost as a character. I feel like it is almost like a character in this book for a period. I don't want to skip on too far ahead, but they obviously follow the Hans back for quite a while, and it is something that they talked about a lot for a few chapters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've really started to enjoy this bit. It felt like it was really picking up the pace. There was starting to be some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? There's starting to be some sort of threat almost, I suppose, like some peril at the end of the day, which to me at least made things a bit more exciting. Yeah,
I think I would agree, and definitely about the Hans back almost being like a character. It kind of feels like an extension of Hans himself, other than the name, obviously, but it's, they're using it as a guide, and it obviously keeps them safe and healthy because they have water to drink from, and that's sort of his role in the piece. He kind of looks after them and shows them where to go. So definitely 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah, I enjoyed this part of the book as well. I thought it was really good. It was it was really effective at building the tension, and I thought I really did feel the sense of wonder. And these parts, especially when they start talking about the fact that the ocean is over them, that was that kind of blew my mind. As imagine being beneath the entire ocean. It kind of give a good sense of scale to the imagination and everything. And as Jason said, we start to get peril and stakes introduced here to the characters. It makes it a bit more interesting. It's a bit more of a modern story here. You know, it kind of matches the kind of fiction that we're used to reading, where the characters have a very straightforward goal. They have a straightforward mission. In this case, it's to find water, which is I think it's one of the strongest human urges, you know, it's probably arguably the strongest to have water. So it's a very compelling goal to have and to follow along with. I thought it was strong, a strong part of the book. And as you said, Hans, absolute hero.
Man himself. The part about the water being above them, that definitely gave me like, not chills, but it was like, oh, that's kind of creepy in a way.
Yeah.
You know? But it was also, that's where I started wondering. I was like, so they're not going straight down. It was probably mentioned about 10 times before this, but they're not going straight down. It's like almost horizontal a bit.
Yeah.
You know? Which was kind of weird, but yeah. Johnny, any thoughts?
I mean, just more or less what the guy said. This book has kind of a very realistic take on it. Like the problem of having to get water is like, I think it's something you wouldn't really even consider in like a normal kind of fantasy book. You know, for example, in the movie, the problems they face is getting chased by T-Rexes and things like that. So, whereas this here is a very realistic problem. Again, that I think when this was written, you know, he was thinking about, you know, what would be a realistic problem that you would face down here. Well, probably because of the heat and stuff, you know, water would be an issue and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it does. Yeah, it's definitely picked up at this part from the last chapter, but then again, yeah, it's just kind of a case of here you get the arguments between the professor and the nephew being like, I think they basically come to the conclusion it's like, if we don't find water, we'll go back, and then you know they get to the point where they don't find it, and then they're actually not going to be able to go back because they've waited too long and they're going to die of dehydration or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like that whole arguing kind of thing just repeats from here on. But like, no, it was an okay chapter, or a couple of chapters.
Big time, yeah. I mean, one thing I was wondering is like, okay, so obviously they've been traveling for a few days, but surely you would have brought more water than a few days worth. Like if you're traveling, you know, to the centre of the earth.
I think they did discuss that. I think there's a bit at the start where essentially like Professor Lidenbrock's like, no, we only need a wee bit of water. We'll find the spring down there.
Sounds like I'm alright.
Because like, yeah, like the man's so egotistical, so like full of hubris. Like he's just like, nah, be grand. There'll be water down there.
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose you are. I guess you are more likely to find water than food. So yeah, I suppose you have to weigh it up about which more you're going to take. You know. Okay, so the next little bit then. So one day as they're traveling, Axel gets distracted and starts to become lost. He realizes after not even sure how long that the other two aren't behind him anymore, and he begins to panic and tries to retrace his steps. But that kind of causes more confusion because he realizes that the hand's back is no longer at his feet, and so he's not sure which way. You know, is he going backwards on himself or is he going forwards? So then he becomes super lost and super panicked. Then his lamp gets damaged and he's now in pitch black. And he sort of panics, runs around and hits his head and passes out. But then he regains consciousness and he can sort of hear the sounds of, I think he hears an explosion and then some voices. And he realizes that the sound is being like conducted along the wall of the tunnel. And he's able to use that to communicate with his uncle. And they by speaking to each other, they're able to like measure how long it takes for the voice, for each other's voice to carry. I think something like 40 seconds is in my head, if you can remember.
Yeah, 20 seconds there and 20 seconds back.
Yeah, so it takes like a 40-second round trip. So the professor's able to work out that Axel's about 4 miles away. How he worked that out, I'll never know.
Times the speed of sound through the solid.
Thank you, Johnny. There we go. Our resident scientist, good man. So Axel's like 4 miles away, and that gives him a bit of hope. He slides down this passageway, and eventually goes into a tumble and, hits his head and passes out again. We see more of like the sort of damsel side of Axel here. But when he wakes up, he finds that his uncle and Hans, and that they've bandaged his wounds, and that he's safe again in a sense. So he has a little rest, but he begins to hear waves, and that's kind of where we'll leave this little section. So, Johnny, let's start with you. What did you think about this? Like the Axel getting lost and finding his way back and everything.
I mean, he was having an absolute disaster here, like with the first getting lost. Then I suppose he was a bit lost, and then he gets more lost, and then he bangs his head, and the lights go off. Like it's just an absolute nightmare. Like it's, I think if you like just even thinking about it, like it'll probably be the worst way to die. Like just to be freaking lost in pitch black would be horrible.
In the middle of the sea, under the sea,
fucking the middle. Like no one's gonna find you. There's only 2 other people there. Like.
Yeah.
But I did like the whole concept of using the sound and stuff through the wall, and like the wee kind of sweet spot where I could hear them. So
jammy though, right? Like
it was
the chances.
Because he had to be like standing at a specific spot, and then I mean I just liked that it was kind of a little side disaster, because it felt like, I guess like that would be another case, like them getting separated under here as well, because there only us 3 of them are getting lost, because I mean they have absolutely no idea where they are, or this is no one's ever been here. So again, another very realistic problem that they would have faced down there. He's definitely covering all the realistic problems they offer.
Yeah, big time. I mean, it is like I was trying to think what would I do if this happened to me? Like, what would you do? Would you try and retrace, or would you just kind of stay where you are?
Well, I think after having read this, I'd be running around all the walls trying to find the sonic sweet spot.
Absolutely. There we go. Just in case anybody gets lost under the earth, look for the sonic sweet spot.
Keep that in mind.
Right. What's that, Michael?
I said I'll keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind, eh? Jason, what did you think about this part of the book?
Yeah. I think this was probably my favourite section, probably just between like finding the hands back and losing the hands back, and just a sort of sense of dread I felt for Axel. I mean, yeah, he does pass out a lot. Should probably get that checked. But I thought there's something going on there. Like, but yeah, I generally just thought that this was like a quite exciting section of, up until that point, quite a painfully slow at times and boring book. It certainly sort of picked up at this stage.
See, that's interesting to me, because this is the part where the sort of tension was lost, because I knew that he got out of it completely. Like, he'd already said something. I can't remember what it was he said, but he'd said something where, like, my uncle published his diary or whatever. So I knew that he was going to be found again. And so there was no suspense there. So it's interesting that you really liked it, I think. But that's cool.
Yeah, no, I did enjoy this bit.
Cool. Are you having a go on me, Michael? What did you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed this section of the book as well. I think that the whole getting lost underground thing is absolutely terrifying. I watch videos of, like, those people who, like, they dive and then they go cave diving, and it's like I can sort of see the appeal to them, because it's like you could potentially see a place that no human eyes have ever witnessed before. So there's like this really cool sense of discovery and adventure, which is present in this book as well. But there's also the fact that no human has ever been there before. These tunnels haven't been tested. You could get lost. You could get stuck somewhere. That could be the end of it. It's always been a big fear of mine. It's why the Descent, the horror movie, is one of my scariest horror movies, because it's just this tunnel system. So yeah, it definitely got to me. I was feeling a bit claustrophobic listening to this part as I was walking, and I thought it was an effective part of the book.
Oh, so you were like fully immersed. That's interesting to me as well.
I really, this would be definitely one of my worst ways to die in like an isolated cave or something like this.
Have you ever seen those people who like go into the Paris catacombs?
Not in real life. I've seen some movies based on the Paris catacombs.
I've seen some videos on like YouTube. People go like, obviously you're not allowed to go in there. They like, there's secret entrances or whatever, and they break in, and they're walking around, and it's like you could get lost at any moment, and you're screwed basically. And that is what you were describing there. That's the vibe that I'm getting.
Yeah,
but I didn't get that with the book though.
Yeah,
interesting. Okay, so next little bit. So the next part, Axel he's not fully recovered, but he's able to kind of walk around, and he discovers that they've ended up at a sea, like a subterranean sea, which the professor has named after himself. So it's the Lidenbrock Sea. There also appears to be clouds with a white light shining through them, which is super weird when you're underground. It's like you're back on the surface again, but Axel theorizes that the light is caused by some electricity that's gathered in the air. Again, don't understand that part, but I'll take it. They discover some giant mushrooms that the professor theorizes... they discover some giant mushrooms, and the professor theorizes that animals lived there in the cavern at some point as well. They construct a raft because they want to sail across the sea, hoping that they'll find another plot of land or an island or something. And they travel from what they've called Port Gräuben, which is their departure point. They catch some fish that were previously thought to have been extinct, and after several days they come upon these two creatures that are fighting. You're going to have to help me with the pronunciations here, but I think it's an ichthyosaur and a plesiosaur. Is that correct? Yeah. Spot on. One is like a serpent, like dinosaur thing, and another is like a massive crocodilian like creature, which sounds absolutely terrifying. But they fight for a long time, and the crocodile creature eventually kills the other one and vanishes back into the sea. But that sort of sets the parties like on edge, because another one could appear at any point and they'd be screwed basically. But they continue onward on their little raft, and eventually they hear this big roaring sound, and they have a little bit of panic because first thought it's another one of them monsters. But it leads them to a little island that they call Axel Island. And for a moment I thought that this was like a little bit of like, not exactly foreshadowing that Axel wouldn't get back to Gräuben. But then I kind of remembered about the past tense nature of the book, so I thought, never mind. Maybe that's a wasted opportunity, I'm not sure. But anyway, they continue on, and they get caught up in a storm, and the raft collides with this shore that they find. And Axel's also like almost electrocuted at one point before Hans saves him because he's a legend. But they deduce that the storm has brought them back to the same shore that they were on, which had Port Gräuben and everything. So that's kind of the penultimate section of the book. Michael, any thoughts on their sea journey?
This is sort of a part I was alluding to when in my initial summary, where I said the book is very much a product of its time compared to what modern audiences might expect. Here we just kind of get a taste, these massive prehistoric beasts, and it does evoke a sense of wonder, to think of things that are extinct living here, and I like how it's treated so earnestly by Jules Verne. It's not, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the trailer, I think I've seen parts of it, but it looks very fantastical, and there's a T-Rex. I think everybody knows that now. This is a lot more grounded, even with fantastic things happen, so it kind of makes you appreciate the fantastic things more. It's just, if this was written to a more modern audience, with all that we've seen now, there would be a lot more of this. It was just a bit of a taster. But I appreciated what was there, but it kind of flew by when it was just, you felt like, oh, this is the meat, and then the meat was gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely wanted more creatures. But yeah. Jason, what did you think about the monsters and the sea?
I mean, I feel like this is what I was waiting for. I was waiting for this moment. I was waiting for the T-Rex. Never got the T-Rex. I suppose in my head I had like other ideas of what would happen at this stage. I thought they would maybe have to like survive the creatures somehow. There may be more peril. I did like the storm. I like, maybe I'm jumping ahead a wee bit, but I like sort of the outcome of what happened with the storm. I don't really know if I loved what they did with the creatures in this. Yeah, with the compass, yeah. But I don't really know if I loved what they done with the creatures here. I feel like it was very just like, well, here they are. And that's about it. Aye.
Yeah, there's no real plot going on in these sections of the books. It is just an odyssey. It's just a safari.
Yeah.
Again, I suspect, again, I haven't seen the movie, but I suspect that there's like a plot. And this part, there's maybe somebody is stuck somewhere at this part and they have to get to them or something. But there's no, it's just, you are just seeing amazing things. And again, I think that is just the era that the book was written in, kind of.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense, yeah. Johnny, anything to add?
I mean, yeah, like I said, I've seen the movie, and the movie is very fantastical and stuff like that. It's very fantasy. This at least kind of brought a bit of that into it. Like, this is kind of what I was waiting for, was, you know, when they go on to, they find this like completely different world where essentially, I mean, in the movie it's more or less like prehistoric creatures are still alive because obviously they've been cut off from the rest of the world. I mean, I don't know how they got there. Probably this was connected to the world at some stage. But yeah, I
think he mentions that in the book. The professor mentions something like they were kind of there and then the world sort of like grew around them, sort of thing. Or something like that. Or there was like a depression in the earth or something, and then I can't really remember.
Yeah, I mean, it also could have been the case that this life started down here and then they moved up.
Yeah, I think that sounds like something he might have said, yeah.
So, who knows? But, yeah, I mean, this is kind of the part I was waiting for and most excited about. So, yeah, it doesn't maybe be as exciting as, like, the movie makes it, with the, like, you know, he gets chased by the dinosaur and things like that. This is more like them observing these things, but, yeah, it's still quite interesting. I think he talks to you points about, like, you know, trilobites and stuff, which are, like, you know, even before dinosaur kind of times and stuff, so... Yeah, I find that kind of stuff interesting.
Cool, yeah. I think Michael had the nail on the head with the safari comment. I think that's the perfect way to describe it, and especially going into this next section. This is kind of like the last little bit of the book. So they end up on this island, or not on this island, on this like shoreline, and they think they're near Port Gräuben again. Like the whole sea journey was wasted. So the professor wants to set back out on the sea again. And of course Axel doesn't want to because they nearly died and there were two monsters and they were caught up in a storm and everything. But of course the professor sort of relents and says, oh, okay, we'll look around the shore first, but then we're going back out on that sea. But then they come across like a pile of fossils, including one that looks like a human skull that's alongside like pterodactyls and mastodons and other extinct animals. And they think this is a huge, like, this, you know, this scientific discovery because it would be irrefutable proof that humans lived alongside dinosaurs, which would be madness. Then they come across a herd of mastodons and what seems to be a 12-foot humanoid type creature that's sort of like herding them. And then this is kind of like another instance, that sort of safari-like feeling where they only really observe, you know, these mastodons and the humanoid person. They never kind of, you know, meet them or anything, which might be a missed opportunity, I'm not sure. But they eventually retreat because they think, you know, that boy's going to batter us, sort of thing, if he sees us. They make their way back to the shoreline. The professor discovers a dagger and determines that it's a couple hundred years old and has been used to carve away at stone. They notice like a granite slab, which they see is marked for AS, which they presume means Arne Satanusum, the guy who wrote the instructions and everything. And they decide to follow that to like this rock wall. They decide to follow like where the slab is kind of pointing to this rock wall that they think is the next passage that they need to get through. So they sit on the raft. They set up all the blasting powder, sit on the raft, and blow a big hole, which then causes all the water to like rush into this hole and pulls the raft in with them. and they kind of descend downwards for hours in darkness. But eventually the raft starts to go upwards for like a very brisk pace, and Axel realizes the compass has stopped working, which Jason alluded to earlier. So they're not really sure, which way they're going or anything. They kind of go up this like shaft, and it gets really turbulent, and the professor realizes that they're being swept up in a volcanic eruption. But he says it's actually really good because they won't starve to death, which is I don't know how to feel about that, but yeah. Eventually the raft gets forced out of the volcano and back out into open air. So they're effectively, their journey back has been made 100 times easier. But they recognize that they're not in Iceland anymore, and they're not sure where they are. Come across this kid who tells them that they're in Stromboli, which is an island in the Mediterranean. They make their way home to Germany, and now everybody in the town knows that they've been on this journey because the housekeepers have mouthpiece. Some scientists refuse to believe the professor's account of their journey, but others think they've praised them for their discovery and everything. Hans goes home, absolute hero, salute to him. And then Axel and Gräuben get married, and the professor's super famous and popular, and he's happy. And that's the end of the book. For me, it was kind of like a anticlimactic end in a way. Like, obviously them shooting out of the volcano was madness, but I didn't see it coming at all. It seemed like they were going to go further in, but then they end up getting out by accident. It's kind of, I didn't know how to feel about that, but part of me was glad it was over. So, Michael, do you want to take it away for the last section there?
Yeah, I guess I'll continue on in the same vein where I was last time saying how it was like a safari, and this is like saying, the ride's over, the show's over, everybody go home. It was kind of,
get out of here, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of agree with, I think you used the absolute perfect word, Stephen, which is anticlimactic. I did find it a bit anticlimactic. I thought it should have been a bit more, but yeah, I was expecting a bit more to go on when they actually got to where they were going, and for like there to be some kind of thematic resonance or reason or purpose to this all. But I guess again that's probably just my modern sensibilities and comes from the stories that I'm used to consuming as a person of the 21st century, because I don't really actually read that much old fiction. The oldest book I've ever read is Don Quixote, which is 1600s, I believe. But apart from that, I don't really read beyond the 1900s. So it's kind of out of my comfort zone. But yeah, it was a bit anticlimactic, and it was a bit tied too neat. It was tied onto a neat little bow, but it was like too neat, nearly. I don't know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Another thing that I thought, just to kind of sidetrack for a second, but surely they should have got injured in some way, getting shot out of a volcano. Like, how come they're totally fine? That part didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
I think it is described that they shoot out of the volcano, and that just seems like they're all going to die. But I don't know.
Especially on a wooden raft.
Well, yeah.
Well, if you watch the movie, they shoot out on like a wooden thing, and then they'll kind of ride down the side of the volcano like a sleigh.
Right.
So
as you do.
That being said, they do that in Utley, where there's I think it's like a grape farm is on it's like Mount Etna or Mount Vesuvius or whatever. There's like a grape farm, so there's grapes are grown on basically wires, and they're riding down this all through the grapes and the wires at whatever speed, and I'm they would definitely have got their heads cut off by the speed they go. But yeah, that's kind of what happens. It's very unrealistic, but once you see it, you can at least fathom that it could be possible.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, strangely, that was the hardest bit of this book for me to comprehend, which is mad.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I agree.
Anyway, Johnny, do you want to continue on there? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it just kind of ended quite promptly. They kind of just right, let's seize later, and then they just kind of find the exit very easily, and just no bother, shoots them up And then the whole then kind of like, I think it's the very last chapter of them explaining kind of what happened to them afterwards. Like Hans goes back to Iceland or his family or whatever, and we don't know if we'll see him again and stuff. Quite sad. But I think
he's come back in.
I know. I think the nephew, to be fair, says he will try and see him again. And then the uncle, I can't. What actually happens with him in terms of the credit? He does get the credit, doesn't he?
I think he do. He does get credit, but there's still like a lot of people that
don't believe it.
Think he's lying there.
Yeah. I mean, I think
because he has no proof. Like he didn't take anything with him, as far as I know. But
yeah. I mean, again, in that day, there's not much way of documentation of how they like take pictures or anything. But I guess it's kind of a bittersweet, and again, a very realistic kind of way that it would have been, especially back then. Maybe nowadays people would definitely believe that it's possible to do that, but then back then people were like, "Oh, you're talking nonsense." Like, and there would have been some people who would want to believe it, and some people who would just disagree for the sake of disagreeing, and that's just how the academic community works. So.
Yeah, I mean, you would at least have pocketed like a pterodactyl bone or something, like,
I know. I think. In the movie, they like see whenever they go up the shaft of the volcano at the end, they're like in the shaft beforehand, and there's like loads of diamonds and stuff, like because obviously the pressure and stuff and the heat down there. So there's like loads of diamonds, and also I think it's like it's like different characters. I think in that it's basically Brendan Fraser, and then I think it's his nephew, and then some woman. There's a woman character as well. It's just Hollywoodized. But I think the wee boy grabs like a load of diamonds and all, but then he keeps it in the hush hush, and I'd be like, no, that's your proof there that.
Yeah. Take
like
or something.
Like how does a wee boy your age come across all these diamonds and rubies and all? Like, I mean, if you're not talking nonsense.
Is blind.
I wonder what the treasure laws in Iceland are, or what jurisdiction that even falls under with that. Because I know in the UK there's like a certain amount of treasure where you have to surrender it to either the landowner or I think it's the government.
Like, no chance. Finders keepers. Like if you're off the coast and you find a pirate's buried treasure or freaking whatever, it's yours. Like,
yeah. If
but,
anybody,
I mean,
the government, bury it, and then the
government will obviously want the tax. They'll tax it, like. But
if any listeners are listening and are like lawyers and experts in treasury laws and international waters, let us know.
Any pirates out there? Right on.
Let us know.
Jay, any final thoughts?
Yeah, short and sweet. Much like Hans, I was sort of glad it was over and I could just go back to doing my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was. I sort of in my head. I would have assumed they would have stayed down there. I thought they might have ended up like living down there.
I think I would have preferred that ending.
I really thought it was going that way. Where like because they saw the humanoid creature, and I thought, oh, maybe they're gonna go meet some more. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought. I thought they'd find like a wee colony or something and just chill out. But nah, just
abruptness.
Pure plot armor. Shoot them out the volcano.
Plot armor.
Deus Ex volcano.
So yeah, that's kind of the review of the book. We move on to star rating.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Happy enough to go first. It's a tricky one because I think it was okay, but then looking at other books that I've kind of, rated on the lower end, I kind of preferred it in a way. So I'm not sure what I'm going to rate it. Maybe a 2.5. Though I liked it more than the Thursday Murder Club, so I'm not sure. 2.5, I'll say.
Say he said a 2.74, which would round down.
Right. Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, I did enjoy it at times, and actually doing this review made me realise that I was warmer on the book than I thought I was at the beginning of this review. Like, the more we talked about the separate bits, I was like, oh, actually I did enjoy that part, and I did enjoy that part. It was just, there was also parts that I did not enjoy that dragged on too long. The pacing was a bit off for me, and the hard science fiction, all the terminology, all the geology, it just was very dense and made it more difficult for me to enjoy in that respect. But I still did I still did feel the sense of wonder. At times I felt I really enjoyed the parts in the tunnels. I thought what we got across the ocean, while I would have wanted a lot more, it was good what we got, I thought. And and treating it like a safari, kind of seeing the book for what it is. I'm just going to, again, go kind of middle of the road and 2.5, just like Stephen.
Cool.
Everybody in my work tells me that I'm a master of sitting on the fence, so I guess that's my expertise level there.
You do love sitting on the fence. Johnny, over to you.
Yeah, I think I actually agree with what Michael said. I was thinking of my rating before this, and I thought it would have been a 2, but yeah, I haven't talked about it. I did enjoy it a bit more than that, so I'm going to say 2.5. And again, we didn't mention too much about the narrator, but I thought Tim Curry was a good performance as well. So yeah, overall 2.5.
Yeah, Tim Curry's good. He's kind of good in everything that he's in, though. He's just a master performer.
It was giving me Stephen Fry, but I feel like it was just the accent, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you know, I did think you would have that sort of opinion at some point when I was at the very start. I was like, oh.
It was giving me Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy at the start as well, just with the voice, and I was like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Just realising that I didn't say anything about Tim Curry. I just want to quickly add that I thought he was good. I don't know.
In the end, I enjoyed them by the end.
I almost wish there was more characters for him to do, though. Like, I feel like he would do really well with like a
bigger cast
of characters.
Yeah, that was a very small, closed-in cast.
Yeah, but performance was still really good, I thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jason, last you round us off there. What do you think?
Yeah, full house. Journey to the sitting on the fence. 2.5 stars.
Cool.
All round.
There we go. I think it's the first time we've had a perfect agreement across the board. I think it is.
I think
the humans, maybe?
The muddle score
humans,
as well.
Yeah, it's the first time all 4,
humans,
for 4 of us.
Cool. Well, what's next? Comparisons, yeah. I mean, any sort of journey book, The Hobbit.
Anything where the characters are journeying towards the centre there.
Do you know, I kind of mentioned Tolkien a bit before, but I was kind of thinking a little bit after I said that yeah, there is a lot of things like similar to The Hobbit. Like, you know, they find the clue basically to lead them to a mountain. They, you know, when he gets lost and everything and whatever. But I don't know. Anything you think are good comparisons, or you want to talk about?
There's a movie of Brendan Fraser. Don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that. Yeah.
Is it The Mummy?
Called George
It's called Journey to the Centre of. Don't know. Never seen it.
I seen it, and that's good.
Do you know one thing? Michael was talking about Jurassic Park earlier. I've never seen it.
What?
Just out myself here. I've never seen it.
You've never seen Jurassic Park? My God.
Never seen it.
I'm actually in shock. That's crazy.
It's like one of Samuel L. Jackson's finest films, like, because he's on it for like he's in like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
Right.
He's barely in it.
Imagine it goes like him in that other. What's that one with all the sharks and he gets eaten? Is it like that?
Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
And then there's the one with all the snakes. So Samuel Jackson just finds himself surrounded by a load of monsters all the time.
We'll move on to what we're consuming then. So take it away, guys.
Go for it, Michael.
What I have been consuming has been a lot of movies. I watched Joff, I'm going to go first actually, because I forget what I fucking watched.
Yeah, I blanked as well. Alright, so Jason stepped away for a wee bit here.
Jason's gone.
Jason's the one.
He's never coming back.
And he'll not be back. He's gone on a journey.
to
maybe
the centre
to the
there.
centre there. He might be going to Iceland. We don't know. So, yeah. What?
I will tell you what I'm consuming. So what am I consuming? No idea there. I've been gone back to play the Fallout 3. I don't know, Michael, did you have, it was a Fallout New Vegas you had on PlayStation, I think?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
I never finished it. I played Fallout 4. I finished that. It's a really good game. Obviously, Skyrim, made by Bethesda as well, is my favourite game ever. So, I wanted to go back and just kind of play. I actually went back and played Fallout 1, but it was made like in the late 90s, so it's
not an easy one to go back to. I tried as well.
Yeah, it's pants. Like it's almost like a, what's the word? Like you have it's like a turn-based kind of one, and it's like from an aerial view, and you're kind of just moving a character through the map, and then when you have to fight someone, you get turns.
It's more like an adventure RPG where like the Follow the Wino is like an action RPG where it's more like real time and everything.
Yeah, so I played the first couple of whatever missions or whatever, the first one, and I was just like, this is crap. And then the second one apparently has a lot of improvements, but again, it's the summer kind of thing. So I was like, you know what, I'll just go to Fallout 3. I want to play that, and I want to play New Vegas, and then I want to replay Fallout 4. Just kind of working my way through them, and then I want to do the same thing with the Elder Scrolls. So on the Game Pass, I think they have Morrowind and Oblivion, and then Skyrim. So I might work my way through those as well, just because I'm just having an RPG kind of mode at the minute. So working through that, and then hopefully by the time I'm done all that, I might get one of those newer ones. Like I haven't got like a Hogwarts Legacy or even Elden Ring, which I heard were good. So things like that. So those other kind of massive RPGs. So might get onto one of those then. I just finished another book there on the Spotify book thing, where you get, if you're a premium member of Spotify, you get like 15 hours a month of listening time. And it was The Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Now, I did a bit of quantum theory and quantum mechanics and stuff in my uni days, but I still want a notion what he's chatting about in this half the time. But he talks a lot about like black holes and stuff like that. It's quite interesting to listen to it, and what you can pick up on is quite interesting, but it is a bit of a complex book as well.
I'm glad you said that, Jonathan, because it makes me feel less bad about not fucking picking up much from it the 2 times I've listened to it.
It is a tough book to listen to. Most of the fair, he does explain a lot of things in kind of layman's terms. There's just some things that do go a bit like too in depth that you just can't really grasp. Like if you compare it to that one, the Bill Bryson short history of nearly everything, like that, there's a perfect kind of level of detail and the everything.
That's a great book, yeah.
Yeah, great book. That's also free on Audible now, I think, at the minute, with your membership, and it's also on that Spotify. But I finished that Brief History of Time one. So my next book now that is going to be Dave Grohl's autobiography that I released not too long ago. So I'm going to listen to that just to do a bit of autobiography, because I listened to that Jeanette McCurdy one there before the Stephen Hawking one, and really loved. Like I would have thought that I wouldn't really be into kind of like those kind of books, you know, the like what do you call them, like biographies and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed the Jeanette McCurdy one, and the Dave Grohl one is quite highly rated. So I'm going to read that next. That's on the Spotify thing. To get the 15 hours on.
You should have recommended that Jeanette McCurdy book last time.
Yeah, I think we should cover it eventually on this podcast, because it is just because it's so modern as well, like in terms of the problems she's talking about, especially like as a woman and stuff like that, is going through.
We haven't done a biography either. Maybe
we haven't done a non-fiction book at all, haven't we? Not.
No.
Well,
Journey to the Centre there.
We did. Let me think. It depends how you take All Quiet on the Western Front. Like, I mean, I suppose it is fiction, but
it is a fiction, but based on real events.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done a proper non-fiction book. So yeah, it might be interesting to do something like that in the future. But yeah, I'm not doing too much else. Just moved house there from Derry to Belfast, so at the minute, I don't have we haven't got the Wi-Fi installed, so I have unlimited 5G, but I only get perfect 5G connection at a particular part in Daniel's room, so my housemate's room, somewhere, and it's a particular spot in his room, so my phone is now in that spot, and that's how I can be here and talk to you now. But if I move the phone from that spot, then I lose all connections, so it's not convenient at the minute, so I haven't really been able to like play a lot of online stuff or download a lot of online stuff, so yeah, that's why I've been playing Fallout. So to be fair, I enjoy more single player kind of based games anyway, but it's just like FIFA, for example, is a game that I play a lot of, but haven't been able to play online, so haven't been doing a lot of, but that's pretty much it.
Have you played Dark Souls, Johnny?
I played a bit of the first one. I know it's like pure hard.
Did you like it?
You know what, I think I would like it. I know it's got that, you know, it is supposed to be like extremely hard game, but I mean, that's kind of, I like a hard single player game. Like I think games have got a bit too easy.
You'll like Elden Ring then?
Yeah, I'll hopefully get into that in the future.
Cool. Go for it, Michael.
Yeah, so I think last year I said that I looked up the best horror movies of the year and like blazed through them. I've done the same thing this year, just caught up on everything. Apparently this year wasn't as good as a year, according to most people. But I quite enjoyed a lot of the movies that I watched. I watched Ari Aster's third movie, Beau is Afraid, starring Joaquin Phoenix. This is a very, very odd movie, very strange and mythological. I definitely wouldn't recommend it to everyone. It's very divisive, but I absolutely loved it. And I would not recommend it to most people, though, especially if you're not familiar with Ari Aster stuff. It's very out there. It's a very strange, unusual movie, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Australian horror movie Talk to Me. It's like a kind of allegorical tale about addiction, specifically to like party drugs, but it's using like this hand, and people like self-possess themselves. It's probably the scariest movie out of the bunch that I watched. I also enjoyed the Last Voyage of Demeter, which is based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's based on like a short portion of that book. It all takes place on a ship, so it's kind of like a monster movie on a ship with vampires, and it's pretty good. It's really good. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed Evil Dead Rise. Very silly movie. The Evil Dead movies are all very silly and outrageous horror, but I do enjoy them. They're not to everybody's taste. And I watched the new Scream movie. Did not enjoy that so much. Was
it bad, was it?
It was pretty bad, yeah. Scream 6 was not as good as Scream 5, because Scream 5 was really good, and it relaunched the franchise in this really interesting way, and it seemed like it was going interesting places again, and now Scream 6 is kind of like, yeah, a big step backwards.
Right.
But yeah, I watched a lot of movies, and something I wanted to bring up was Matthew Perry died between episodes, and I know that's why am I bringing that up on an audiobook club podcast. Well, his autobiography has been trending in the bestseller lists since then. I haven't listened to it, but I've read some excerpts of the book, and like his relationship to alcohol. He actually like related a lot to something that he said, where I can't remember what age he said, but it was like when he was 17 or something like that, he had his first drink and it just felt right, and like it completed him and it filled something inside him. And I remember I kind of felt that way about my first drink as well at 17, that like it filled this anxious gap in me that I'd always felt, and it made me extroverted when I'd always been, paranoid about introversion and didn't want to be introverted. And it's sort of like made me reflect kind of on whether it is a good force in my life or has been a net positive. So it like kind of got me down a path of like reading some books about how alcohol works on the brain. I read a book called Alcohol Explained because I wanted to have like a real understanding of it. And I burrowed deeper and deeper into this subject, and it made me realize that it hasn't really filled the anxious hole in me in a long time, and it actually seems to create a rebound feeling of anxiety and depression. So I was kind of like, I'm gonna cut it out for a while here and see how I feel. So I haven't drank anything in like 40 days at this stage, and I have to say my anxiety and depression are basically non-existent now, which I've been dealing with for a long time.
Good job, man.
Yeah, so I think it's going to cause a lot of conflict in my life if I say I'm never going to drink again. I know some portion of our friends wouldn't be very happy with that.
You see, like, I think I spoke to you before about this because I did a summer thing where, I think I told you before, like when I'm like drunk, I turn into a person that I absolutely hate, right?
Yeah.
When I think back on things that we've done when I'm steaming, like proper drunk steaming, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
And I hate it, right? And then I just turn around one day and says, I'm just not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And like you might have noticed, there've been a bunch of times where we've done some, like we've played cards or whatever, and I just haven't drank, and it's fine. Like people some of our friends do be like, that's kind of weird, but like for me, it's fine because I'm not there to get drunk. I'm there to see my friends. So I think what you're saying though is true. Where like, don't say I'm not going to drink ever again, because that's probably a lie, right? Because I've said that and I was lying. Not lying, but I quickly broke that, right?
Yeah.
Not because I was desperate for one or anything, just because it was just all, randomly decided to have one, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But
no, I have noticed that you have been drinking a lot less. I have been thinking about that too, as I haven't been drinking, and like it's a hard thing to do anywhere, I think, in the modern world, but especially in Ireland, where drinking is like, it's so ubiquitous with like having a fun time, and you think like, are you actually having fun because of the alcohol, or are you having fun because you're doing fun things and you're with your friends? And it's like, and here it's tied a lot to like your masculinity. It's like, if you're not drinking, it's like, what are you, gay? What are you, a pussy? And I know that's a thing in America too, toxic masculinity, but I think it's even more magnified here. And like, men are very good at talking about their feelings here, and it's a good way to kind of numb yourself and anesthetize yourself and repress things. And I kind of don't want to like repress things anymore. So it's just, I just want to kind of feel my emotions and deal with things that I've been feeling. So I just wanted to bring that up about Matthew Perry, and it's very sad that he might have possibly died because of damage he did to his heart and his drinking years. I don't think it's still quite clear how he died.
It's tricky with him because it wasn't just drink. He also had a super bad drug problem too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and I think he had heart problems, and I think there was something about was he found in a hot tub or something, which you're not supposed to do if you have a heart condition. Like, you're not supposed to get in one for some reason. So it's very up in the air, what happened there. But good job though on the 40 days. That's amazing. I will say that it does get easier. Like, obviously I have had, I had a drink every so often, right? But see, the part going out with friends and stuff, eventually you don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to have a Coke or a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi.
I mean, it's been sort of easy. It's been sort of easy for me in a way, because I've just had to fight the physical craving, which I think only lasts about 7 days. And then the rest is like societal pressures that get you. And I haven't had to face any of that because I haven't been out in anything social. And I have like a staff do coming up on like Christmas, like the 1st of December. And I just don't want to drink because I don't want to feel anxious and depressed the next day. I don't want to like have suicidal thoughts, which sometimes alcohol seems to stimulate in me. I just want to feel okay, so, and I just wanted to talk about that on the podcast because I know we have hundreds of listeners, and maybe there's somebody out there who needs to hear stuff like this, and,
Yeah, absolutely. And good job for bringing that up. That was really, powerful.
Thanks.
One final thing about that is, you mentioned, what was it you mentioned? Like, about having fun. And I'll tell you now, I've had more fun not drinking, but like being out with everyone, than I've had being drunk.
Yeah.
Which it does seem weird, but it is fine.
Yeah. So, because I'm actually looking forward to things like, I can't wait to do a Christmas where I don't drink and like remember the day and like can just like watch Jonah and see him having fun, and not blur things out or anything.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. But I guess that's what I've not been consuming for 40 days.
Yeah. Nice tie back there, yeah. For me, I guess, just to wrap up this section, I haven't really been consuming much either. I started a new job there the start of, last month at this point, but it's taken a lot of getting used to because my hours have now changed because I need an hour overlap with the west coast of the US, so it made things a bit awkward. And then once I finish work, I'm kind of like, putting the kid to bed, and then me and Sarah watch Big Brother, and then we go to bed. So I haven't really been consuming too much, but so I have no Apple TV shows to recommend you this time around. Although I will say Slow Horses Season 3 is coming in 2 weeks, so I'm excited for that. I guess one thing to bring up is we did a hackathon as part of work. So for those that don't know, a hackathon is like a couple of days where you hack something together, but it could be like, an application, or maybe make some, try making a certain type of food, or maybe do something around the house, like tile your bathroom or something. And this time, well, for the first time, I did a Romaji converter. So I think I talked before about how I've been learning Japanese, and Romaji is like a way to transliterate Japanese characters into Latin characters, so that like English speakers like me or you could pronounce them. So it's a way to like reverse translate. So you type in those characters and it gives you out the Japanese characters. And that was a good fun learning experience that I did recently. And then I guess I've fallen off the wagon again. I'm back playing World of Warcraft for my sins. The addiction's had me there, but it's just really good, and yeah, it's just boring stuff, really.
I wanted to talk about one more thing too. I read a book about like dopamine, Dopamine Nation, and it's kind of got me thinking about a lot more things. So I've like started running again, and I am a person who's always has to be stimulating my mind, always has to be doing something. And the more I read,
never see Michael without a ball in his hand.
That's what I was going to say. You used to have a thing where you would always have a ball or an orange or something.
And the more I read this book, the more I realized that's not really good for you. Like, I've heard we've all heard this growing up. Like, it's like, don't use your phone at the kitchen table, or it's like screen time's bad for children. And I'm like, but why? Why are those things bad? And it's this book kind of explained it in a way I knew more. I've heard of dopamine, of course. It's like the reward. It's like the reward in your brain. But it made it make a lot more sense to me. Like, and there's this concept they talk about, like dopamine fasting, which I've talked to before on this podcast. I'm a fan of like fasting and stuff. So I've like, how can I incorporate like a bit more downtime into my life? Because I like listening to stuff when I'm walking. That's just my time to listen to books. I don't want to, that's one of my non-negotiables of taking away. So I've been like out running, and I was like, okay, I'm going to run, and I'm going to do it without like listening to music or having to drown something out of my brain. Yeah. So I'm just like out, not listening to anything, trying to allow myself to be bored. It's driving me a little bit crazy, but I feel really great after it. And I've noticed after doing it for 3 weeks that my attention span, what I'm absorbing from books and everything, has improved massively. So I think it has already shown beneficial, it's shown benefits for my brain. So it's Dopamine Nation was the book that I read, but I think there's a good few books about that subject now.
Cool. Might give it a read.
I actually, because I've just moved house there, there's like a path. I think it's called, like, it's basically a path that goes from Belfast to Cumber. So Cumber's a place not far from Belfast, but it's basically like a bike path or like a walking path. So it's right now I could cycle on it for 30 minutes to get from where I live in Dundonald's, which is just outside Belfast, into Belfast where I work. And I could go completely on this track, just having, the crossroads. But at night now, it's obviously dark here at like 5 o'clock. So it's like lit with red light. So when I first seen it, I was like, geez, that looks very scary. Because like the red light, it's still quite hard to see down it. But there's something nice about it when you're actually walking. So I went out for a walk down it the other day, and there's still loads of people on it even when it is dark. And I've told you, Michael, ages ago, I was doing that like couch to 5K thing.
Yeah.
I started running. I kind of fell away from it a bit in the summer. I found it wild hard to run when it was hot outside. And just kind of fell away from it. And then I started bulking, classic, proper bulking for the gym to like improve my strength. So I don't want to be doing too much cardio to lose calories that way. I wanted them going straight to the muscles, like. But now at the minute I'm sitting at about 106 kg, which I think's about just over 17 stone, or just under 17 stone. So the other day when I was walking on this path, I just it was like Forrest Gump kind of moment. It's like I just started running. So just like while I was walking, I was like, God, this is such a nice night for a run. Hey, so I just like downloaded the Couch to 5K app and did the first day again, just randomly. But yeah, geez, it was so much harder than when I did it like 6 months ago, because I'm about 10 kg heavier than I was.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I now started now while I'm heavy, and because of actually, my second point here I want to get on to is that I've also started doing intermittent fasting, which I know you're into your fasting, Michael. So
yeah,
I'm just doing the 16-8 one, where you fast for 16 hours and then you have your eating period over an 8-hour window, which within that window is where I have my gym session. So I'm still fueled up and eat a lot of calories around the gym session. It's just then that I fast kind of during my non-active times. It's actually not too bad, because like friggin' 9 of those 16 hours I'm asleep, so it's really only 7 hours I have to deal with being hungry. Like, and to be fair, I'm only really hungry in the mornings when I'm waiting for my breakfast, so I start eating at 12, but I start my work at 9, so like those 3 hours were probably the hardest. But I think I'm trying to cut down to hopefully 90 kilograms. So it's about 16 kilograms I'd have to lose, or like, I don't know how many stone that is, like 3 stone or something. So I'm going to try and do that. So the 3 things that I've added into my life to do that is the fasting, the running, and then I've also this third thing that I think you should try, is I was reading a lot about when you want to recover and stuff, or like actually releasing dopamine, or releasing your testosterone and stuff like that.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Is a cold shower.
I knew you were going to say something about cold therapy.
Yeah. So see, right, I have my normal shower, and see at the very end, I've only able to do it for 20 seconds at the minute. I've only done it twice, but I'm doing it every day now. Is to turn your shower to cold and then let it run on you for like as long as you can, obviously. But I can only do 20 seconds. They start. I'm absolutely like barely breathing by the end of it, because cold takes your breath away. But see after, like, obviously it's horrible while you're doing it, but see it when you come out of the shower then and like dry yourself off, I literally can't stop smiling. It's like funny. It's weird. Yeah. It just makes you feel good or something. Like it's so strange. But apparently it's like releasing like dopamine stuff, and it's also
slow release of dopamine. That book that I was talking about actually talks about cold therapy, and it's how modern people we kind of try to avoid pain at all costs. But just like when you take a drug, you get this huge spike of dopamine, and then you pay back for it by this slow dip that is so sustained and happens so long. By putting ourselves through like pain, such as exercise, which is more or less a simulated pain, or cold therapy, it's like your body has the opposite reaction, where, the dopamine releases positively for a sustained period. So that's kind of why exercise... It's partly why exercise, obviously there's endorphins as well. There's more complex things working with exercise, but that's partly why exercise makes you happy as well. Actually combine the two, Jonathan, because this is how much of a crazy person I am. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, could not get back to sleep one day. It was 4 in the morning and I was still wide awake, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go run. It was absolutely freezing. Felt horrible. It was so cold. I got on, having done my run, and I felt absolutely great, because my body had endured so much unpleasantness.
Yeah, it's kind of like it kind of appreciates then, like it's like having the cold shower. Once you're back in the warm, then you appreciate it more. Whereas you wouldn't have had it. It's just weird, but those are the 3 changes I've made now to see how it works and how it goes, and see if I'll be able to. My target is to be 90 kilograms by essentially the time we go on Jason's Stag Do, which is going to be in May. So. That now being November, so we're going to see if I can hit that target. So we'll have monthly updates on this podcast.
16-8's it's a good fasting regime as well. If you ever want to know like more about the science of fasting, I definitely recommend the Obesity Code. That's like the Bible on fasting. It's by Dr. Jason Fung. He has a clinic, I think it's in Toronto, Canada, where he's like reversed diabetes for like a ton of patients and all. They go on like slightly longer fasts, but that's because they are, they're diabetic, and he's very like, you skip people online who are very radical about fasting, and he's not radical at all. He's just like, find what works for you, find what you find enjoyable, kind of.
Yeah.
Which I think is what people should be focusing on.
Yeah, I've seen that there's all the different regimes, so this one's the popular one, so I'm trying this now, and we'll see how this goes, and then maybe venture into other ones. There's other ones where you like have like say a 5-2, where it's like you have 5 normal days and then 2 really like low calorie or no calorie days.
Yeah. I've done like a few extended fasts, like I've done a couple of 36, I've done a 40-hour fast. The longest I've done is like a 60-hour fast. I think intermittent fasting's probably enough, and it's probably powerful enough. It's getting into the routine that is the most powerful thing, so you don't like have to do extended fasting or anything. I just thought it was like a cool physiological thing to experience, and you do feel like a euphoria from doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I would be able to go 24 hours without food like that. I would collapse like that.
You can surprise yourself. It's like a muscle. It builds as you get used to it.
I guess you just work. Now I'm doing 8 hours of eating, and then just move that down to 7 hours and 6 hours, and before you know it, 2 hours down. But yeah, I mean, we'll try this out and we'll see how it goes. But
yeah,
I just wanted to bring that up while you were talking about that stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff. And then plugs. Any plugs you want to talk about?
I've started like putting out Christmas horror stories. I've done it. I'm doing it on my like usual Dark Tales feed, and I've done it on a new feed, which is specifically for this like novella that I'm working on. It's like a serialized novella, which means that I'm just like making this up as I go, and I'm releasing chapters, and it's kind of inspired by like A Christmas Carol was written like this, Sherlock Holmes was written like this, and like Green Mile was written like this. It's like, it's kind of a scary way to write, because I'm like, I don't completely know where this story is going, and I hope it just comes to me as I'm writing it, but like it's fun as well. And I think I kind of have a rough idea that it's going to be about 7 parts long. So the first part is out there now. It's called White Winter, Christmas Ghost Trilogy. It's all Christmas themed ghost stories, so very, very much inspired by A Christmas Carol in that way. Also, like that Black Mirror episode, the one about Christmas, I can't remember the name of it.
White
but
Christmas.
Yeah, I love that episode. I love how it's like a framing story and it ties everything together. So I'm kind of trying to do something like that. So I'll see how it works out.
Is that the one with John Hamm?
Yeah.
I think it is, yeah.
That's my favorite Black Mirror episode. Yeah. I think so, yeah. So, yeah, and the reason I'm releasing it on two different feeds is I want to see like how viable it is to have like different stories just have their own feeds and see how they perform. If it doesn't perform well, I'll probably just put everything on the Dark Tales feed in future, but just kind of that this is purely like an experiment to see what the numbers are like as I release the episodes.
Good stuff. Johnny, any plugs?
I've just because of me moving house and started a new job a couple of months ago and stuff, I haven't been onto my YouTube stuff as much. But again, just something that's I've still got videos up, and I'm currently working on the next one right now, so I'm starting to hopefully get back into it. It's just again, it's one of them things of just building the routine back up to where it was. But I guess that's just life in general, like that. But yeah, just the YouTube will be in the link.
Cool. Over to Johnny then for the next book. Mic drop. I'm away. Fuck this book. I kind of wish I had suggested Around the World in 80 Days. I think that would have been better, but I'm scared. I'm starting.
I thought it was still a good choice. Like I'm glad that we did it.
I'm glad that we
That's
did
one
it.
of the classics, like you have to.
I'm glad we did, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't. This is a famous book, but I remember I mentioned it to you, Michael, ages ago, and you never heard of it. So no, I don't know. No.
See, if it's before the 1900s, Michael wouldn't have.
Yeah, unless it's Don Quixote or Journey to the Center of the Earth.
This, yeah.
I don't know if you all have heard of it, but at least, I mean, from the title, it is easy to kind of guess what happens, but then it's about kind of narrowing in the guess. Yeah.
It kind of always ends on that being the case, so.
Yeah.
1883 was when this was first published.
Ooh.
Right.
Okay. So, for the next book, so just to give you a little background about this, we're an audiobook club review, and most of it has just been a kind of a narrator just narrating things. Apart from like Stephen Fry, it's kind of just some voice. This one it's like it is a famous book, but this is a particular adaptation of it, which has been turned into a kind of drama and has a lot of, not just somebody reading the book, but it's almost like a performance, which I thought was quite interesting and something different, but while still getting a classic story at the same time. So the book is Treasure Island, and that's written by Robert Louis Stevenson originally, but this adaptation is the Marty Ross adaptation.
That book.
You've never heard of Treasure Island, Michael?
I mentioned this to you about a year ago. I think it was like maybe last Christmas, and I said Treasure Island, and you were like, "What's that?"
I've heard of Treasure Island. I just haven't read it.
Anyway. I've read it, but I've read it before. Yeah, so
all right.
I'll exempt myself.
Have you? Right.
This is the like Audible's original drama version, and it's read by Philip Glenister, Daniel Mays, Catherine Tate, and Owen Teale. So a couple of big names in there. So it is it's almost like a play, I would say, is the best way to describe it. It's kind of like different characters. So you're getting different narrators talking, like playing different characters. So it is interesting. I've listened to the first few chapters myself, but I guess Michael and Jason, have you ever read this?
Never read it. I mean, I'm allowed to guess what I think.
Yeah, of course. So we're going to, you and Michael playing against, so Stephen's read it before, so you are basically, whoever wants to go first can guess what they think.
I'll go first. As far as I'm aware, it is a story of like pirates searching for treasure. I'm assuming an island of treasure.
Damn it!
I'm pretty sure it's a pirate story. Be that, Michael.
Teach me your ways.
I'm going to stop there.
Anything to add, Michael?
God, what can I add to that? That's, it's a... I know if I was going to say pirates because there's treasure, so the classic thing is pirates going after treasure. I guess I'll add that there's... let me think. What can I add to this to make it random? Everything in my brain keeps going to Peter
just
Pan. And like there's little boys who never grow up. And
is there a T-Rex in it?
Wait, let me think of something piratey. Let me think.
You're just thinking of Hook.
Just anything pirate related.
There's a pirate on it who has a hook. I don't know.
There's a pirate in it that has a parrot on the shoulder.
There's a pirate on it who he's a megalomaniac and everybody's afraid of him and even his own crew and they mutiny. What? Really?
Michael wins. I can't remember. I think that's, yeah. I actually can't remember. But I think that's along the lines, yeah.
So that is, just to repeat, that's Treasure Island. This is the Audible original drama version, which is by Robert Louis Stevenson, who was the original author, and Marty Ross, who basically did this adaptation. And it's narrated by Philip Glenister, Daniel Mays, Catherine Tate, and Owen Teale. And as of this time, this is free with the Audible Plus membership.
Awesome.
I'm ready.
So just one thing. So it's not the exact story. It's an abridged version, right? Is that what you mean? It
follows. It is the same story. It's just
the same plot, but it's not the exact same.
Aye.
Gotcha,
it's kind of like, it's rather than like, when you read the story and it's just giving you different narratives. This is like, it's in a play version, so it's basically just characters talking.
Yeah. Cool. Excited to start that.
It's an audio drama instead of a...
Yeah. It's kind of, the audio wise, like, I feel like this kind of takes us to a new place that we haven't been to in this review podcast yet, so it'll kind of be interesting to review not only the story here, but that actual aspect of it too, to see if he's enjoyed it or not. Because there's like, I know Stephen, you mentioned before about like the sound effects and stuff you might not have been overly fond of, but so far I've been listening to it and I'm enjoying it, but we'll see.
I think it was the particular way that it was done in the book that I was listening to, though, so yeah. I'm going into this way an open mind.
Sweet.
Alright, so I think that'll do us then. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
See you
Bye.
on the flip side. Remember that was my catchphrase.
The flippity flop.
That's right.
You thought I'd forget. You thought I forget.
I forgot, to be honest.
I did forget.
There's a good adaptation of Treasure Island if you want something to watch leading up to that episode. The Muppet Treasure Island. It's a good one.
Pirates of the
I
Caribbean.
love
Or
Muppets
Pirates of the
adaptions.
It's the only way I'll understand things, Michael.
Do they have Muppets Journey to the Center of the Earth?
The Muppets, but Brendan Fraser's also there. And Hank from Hank.
He just
Oh, what a book.